Look, 2026's lineup is absolutely stacked, and half these games will probably get delayed. But the other half? Game changers. I've spent days researching what's actually worth your attention. So let's cut through the hype and talk about 18 games that might actually deliver. Some you know, some you've never heard of. Look, when Yacht Club Games says they're making something, you listen. These are the folks who gave us Shovel Knight, and they actually understand what made old Game Boy games special without just slapping a green filter on garbage. Mina the Hollower is basically their love letter to Link's Awakening, but here's the thing. They're not copying it. They're showing Nintendo how it should have been done. You play as Mina, this mouse girl with a whip, running around underground worlds that genuinely look creepy and beautiful at the same time. The combat's got weight to it. When you smack enemies, they actually react like you hit them, not like you're poking them with a wet noodle. And get this, the whole game uses that top-down perspective that's apparently too hard for modern AAA studios to figure out without adding 17 different camera angles. No battle passes here, no premium currency nonsense, just a complete game that you buy once and actually own. Yacht Club proved with Shovel Knight they know how to finish what they start. And after watching big studios release half-baked messes for $70, supporting developers who actually care feels pretty good. If you miss when games were just games, this one's worth keeping on your radar. Okay, a detective mouse in a noir world sounds ridiculous, right? But Fumi Games went and made it actually work. You're this tiny private investigator solving crimes in a city where everyone's an animal. And before you roll your eyes, no, it's not trying to be Zootopia. This thing's got attitude. The mysteries actually make you think instead of just following a quest marker like your brain's on autopilot. You've got to interview witnesses, find clues, and piece together what happened. And the game doesn't treat you like you're stupid. It trusts you to figure things out. The art style's got that hand-drawn look that indie studios nail, while big companies waste millions on photorealistic puddles. Combat exists, but it's not the point. You're a detective, not a soldier. What really sells it is the writing. These characters actually talk like real people, with personality and problems, not like AI chatbots reading a script. Coming from a smaller studio means they're not shoving loot boxes down your throat or selling you cosmetic whiskers for $5. Just a solid detective game that respects your intelligence. March can't come soon enough. Tarsier Studios made Little Nightmares, so you know exactly what you're getting into here. Creepy stuff that'll make you uncomfortable in the best way possible. Reanimal throws you into this twisted world where animals have been experimented on and turned into absolute nightmares. It's horror, but not the jump scare garbage that lazy developers rely on. This is atmospheric dread that crawls under your skin. You're a kid trying to escape this facility, and the game makes you feel small and helpless, without being unfair about it. The puzzles actually require thinking, and the stealth mechanics work because the AI isn't completely brain-dead like in most games. Here's what I respect. Tarsier knows how to build tension without explaining everything. They let you figure out what's happening through environmental storytelling, not by dumping exposition on you like you're reading a textbook. And February 13th? Perfect timing for something creepy. No microtransaction store selling you premium fear. No season pass nonsense. Just a complete horror experience that'll stick with you. If you liked Little Nightmares, this is already on your list. If you didn't play Little Nightmares, fix that mistake first. Silent Hill coming back should be exciting, but let's be real. Konami's track record lately is basically a tutorial on how to disappoint fans. Townfall's being made by No Code, the studio behind Stories Untold and Observation, which means it might actually be good. But that rumored March 26th date? Take it with a massive grain of salt because Konami loves delaying things. What we know is it's supposed to go back to psychological horror roots instead of just throwing monsters at you. Silent Hill worked because it messed with your head, made you question what's real. The town itself was the villain, not just a zombie playground. No Code understands atmosphere, their previous games prove that, so there's hope here. But I'm staying cautious because we've seen what happens when publishers interfere with creative studios. If they let No Code do their thing, we might get something special. If Konami forces them to add battle passes or online co-op nonsense, we're doomed. The Silent Hill name means something to people, and watching it get dragged through mediocre releases hurts. So yeah, I want this to be great, but I'm not pre-ordering until we see actual gameplay. Konami needs to earn back trust, not just cash in on nostalgia. Another Lego game. Cool. Look, these games used to be genuinely fun when they were fresh. But TT Games has been coasting on the same formula for years. You run around, smash Lego stuff, collect studs, solve basic puzzles that a goldfish could figure out. Legacy of the Dark Knight needs to prove it's not just the same game with a new Batman coat of paint. What could make this interesting? Actually challenging puzzles. Boss fights that require strategy, not just button mashing. A story that treats Batman properly instead of just cracking jokes every 5 seconds. The LEGO games work for younger players, sure, but when you've played one, you've basically played them all. May 29th gives them time to actually innovate, but will they? History says probably not. They'll add some new gadgets, maybe a vehicle section, call it a day. Here's hoping they surprise us with actual depth instead of just another checklist of collectibles that pad out the game time. Batman deserves better than a mediocre LEGO game, and players deserve more than paying full price for what feels like DLC. Show us something new, TT Games, or admit you're out of ideas. A James Bond game that's actually supposed to be good? Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. IO Interactive's making this, and they're the folks behind the recent Hitman trilogy, which were genuinely excellent stealth games. So there's actual hope the Bond name slapped on. It's another wasted opportunity. IO Interactive has the talent. The question is whether they'll be allowed to use it. Monster Hunter Stories is that weird spin-off series nobody expected to love, but here we are. Instead of just hunting monsters and wearing their skin like the mainline games, you actually befriend them, ride them, battle alongside them. It's like Pokemon, but without Game Freak's refusal to innovate. Stories 2 was legitimately great. The turn-based combat had depth, the monsters felt like actual companions, and the story didn't treat you like you were brain dead. Twisted Reflection, coming on March 13th, means Capcom's serious about this series, which is encouraging. What made Stories work was respecting both the Monster Hunter universe and turn-based RPG fans. The battles required strategy, not just mashing the attack button until everything died. Raising your monsties, yes, that's what they're called, actually mattered because you built bonds with them. Now, Capcom can be greedy. They love their DLC. But the Stories games have been relatively fair compared to Street Fighter's costume shop nightmares. If they keep that trend and deliver a complete experience, this could be the best Monster Hunter game of 2026. If they carve it up and sell pieces back to us, that goodwill evaporates instantly. Show us you learned from Stories 2, Capcom. Don't screw this up. Don't. Code Vein was basically anime Dark Souls with vampires, and you know what? It was pretty good despite everyone dismissing it. January 30th for the sequel is either ambitious or concerning, depending on whether Bandai Namco actually gave the team enough development time. The first game had issues. Bosses could be cheap, the AI companions were sometimes dumber than a box of rocks, and the level design got repetitive. But the character creator was fantastic. The blood code system let you switch playstyles on the fly, and the gothic vampire aesthetic actually worked. Code Vein 2 needs to fix what was broken while keeping what made it unique. Better boss design that's challenging without being unfair. Smarter companions, or just let me go solo without being punished. More varied environments because gray corridors get old fast. What I appreciate about this series is it's not trying to be Dark Souls exactly. It's got its own identity with the anime style and narrative focus. Whether that's your thing or not is personal taste, but you can't accuse it of being a soulless clone. Bandai Namco's track record is messy, though. Sometimes they publish genuine gems, sometimes they publish incomplete disasters. Code Vein 2 landing in January makes me nervous about crunch and rushing. Prove me wrong, Bandai. Give us a complete game that's actually finished. Square Enix remaking Dragon Quest VII is either the best or worst idea they've had in years. The original was this massive, slow-burn adventure that took forever to get going but rewarded patient players with one of the deepest JRPGs ever made. Reimagined coming February 5th suggests they're overhauling it completely, which it needs because that original opening was brutal, hours before you even see your first battle. If they modernize the pacing, tighten up the grinding, and keep the heart of what made it special, this could introduce a whole new generation to a genuine classic. Dragon Quest has this charm that Final Fantasy lost somewhere around the 13th sequel. It knows what it is and doesn't apologize. Turn-based combat, classic progression, stories about regular people saving the world. But Square Enix loves cutting content and selling it back as DLC. They've done it before, they'll do it again. The 3 Deciseconds remake was solid and complete, so there's hope they'll treat this with respect. What worries me is them modernizing it too much, losing the identity that made Dragon Quest VII special in pursuit of broader appeal. Not every game needs to be an action RPG Square. Sometimes turn-based combat is perfect. Trust the original vision, update what's genuinely outdated, and don't nickel and dime us. Simple formula. Onimusha coming back is genuinely exciting because this series disappeared for no good reason. Capcom just stopped making them after the PlayStation 2 era, which was criminal because these games were fantastic. Samurai action against demons. What's not to love? Way of the Sword doesn't have a specific date yet, just 2026, which means Capcom's either being smart and taking their time, or they have no idea when it's actually ready. The original Onimusha games had this perfect blend of action and puzzle solving that Resident Evil nailed in the same era. You weren't invincible. Demons could wreck you if you got careless. The swordplay felt weighty and deliberate, not like you're waving a foam toy around. What we need from Way of the Sword is that same commitment to challenging combat without turning it into a Souls clone. Onimusha has its own identity, and trying to copy what's popular would ruin it. Keep the historical Japanese setting authentic, make the demons actually scary. And for the love of everything, no microtransactions for katana skins. Capcom's been on a roll lately with Resident Evil and Monster Hunter, so they remember how to make good games. The question is whether they'll treat Onimusha with the respect it deserves or just cash in on nostalgia. We'll find out whenever they actually decide to release it. Team Ninja makes brutally hard games, and Nioh 3 dropping February 6th means they're confident enough to release it early in the year. That's either a great sign or complete arrogance. Nioh 1 and 2 were Dark Souls meets samurai combat, except faster, meaner, and way more complex. The stance system let you switch fighting styles mid-combo, the loot was deeper than most RPGs, and the difficulty made you earn every victory. What Nioh 3 needs to fix? The loot bloat got ridiculous. You'd get buried under hundreds of weapons that were basically identical with tiny stat differences. Inventory management became a second job. The story in previous games was okay, but forgettable. Just an excuse to fight demons in feudal Japan. If they tighten the loot system, keep the stellar combat that rewards skill over button mashing, and maybe write a story that's actually memorable, this could be the best in the series. Team Ninja knows their audience. People who want challenging combat that doesn't hold your hand. But challenge and unfair aren't the same thing, and sometimes Nioh crossed that line with cheap enemy placement or camera issues. Polish that stuff, keep what worked, and Nioh 3 could dominate February. Just don't expect this to be easy. Team Ninja doesn't do easy, and honestly, that's refreshing when so many games are scared to challenge players. Chinese developer S-Game making a character action game that looks this good? Yeah, I'm paying attention. Phantom Blade Zero got revealed and people's jaws hit the floor because it looks like it belongs next to Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. Except it's got this gorgeous Chinese martial arts aesthetic instead of Western or Japanese style. September 9th is far away, which hopefully means they're taking time to actually finish it instead of rushing out broken garbage. The combat footage we've seen is fast, brutal, and stylish. Exactly what action games should be. You're slicing through enemies with techniques that look ripped from wuxia films, and the boss fights seem genuinely intense. What's concerning? S-Game is relatively new to console development. Can they deliver a complete experience without technical disasters? Will the difficulty be fair or frustrating? And here's the big one. Will Sony or the publisher force them to compromise their vision? Because right now, Phantom Blade Zero looks like pure artistic vision, and that's rare. No live service nonsense announced. No microtransaction store teased. Just a complete action game. If they nail the landing, this could be one of 2026's biggest surprises. If they stumble, it's another case of amazing trailers disappointing in reality. I want this to succeed because new studios bringing fresh perspectives is how genres evolve. September can't come fast enough. A Marvel fighting game with a Japanese name and aesthetic? This is either brilliantly weird or a complete disaster waiting to happen. We don't have a specific release date, just 2026, which makes me think they're still figuring out what this game even is. The concept sounds interesting. Marvel characters reimagined through Japanese fighting game design philosophy. If they're pulling inspiration from Arc System Works or classic Capcom fighters, there's potential here. But Marvel's gaming track record is a nightmare. For every Spider-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy, you get 10 mobile cash grabs and half-finished live service games that died in months. What Token needs? Tight mechanics that reward skill, balanced roster where characters feel distinct, and actual depth beyond just mashing buttons until super moves happen. What we'll probably get? Another arena brawler with shallow combat, expensive character DLC, and mechanics designed around extracting money instead of being fun. I want to be wrong. A genuinely good Marvel fighter would be fantastic. But until we see actual gameplay, this is just a cool concept that could go either way. Marvel, if you're listening, let the developers cook. Don't force them to add battle passes or premium currencies. Just make a complete fighting game that people actually want to play more than once. Naughty Dog's new game, officially scheduled for 2027, but rumors say maybe late 2026. Here's the thing about Naughty Dog, they make technically impressive games with strong narratives, but they've also become the poster child for interactive movies instead of actual games. The Last of Us Part 2 was gorgeous and well acted, but the gameplay was basically the same stuff we've been doing since Uncharted. Intergalactic looks like a sci-fi adventure about a bounty hunter in space, which could be amazing if they actually innovate on gameplay instead of just reskinning their usual formula. We need actual player choice that matters, not just walking down linear corridors watching cutscenes. Space exploration that feels genuine, not just backdrop for set pieces. Combat that evolves beyond stealth kills and shooting galleries. Naughty Dog has the talent and the budget. Sony throws money at them like it's unlimited. But having resources doesn't guarantee good game design. It guarantees pretty graphics and motion-captured performances. If Intergalactic is just The Last of Us in space, that's disappointing because space settings offer so much more creativity. Show us why this needs to be a game instead of a TV show, Naughty Dog. Earn our attention with innovative gameplay, not just cinematic trailers. And please, for once, let us actually play the game. Indie sci-fi game from a small team, April 30th release date. Saros is one of those games flying under the radar while everyone obsesses over AAA marketing budgets, and that's exactly where interesting stuff happens. It's about exploring alien worlds, solving environmental puzzles, and uncovering mysteries without someone holding your hand the entire time. No quest markers pointing you exactly where to go. No tutorial treating you like you've never touched a controller. Just you, strange planets, and the satisfaction of figuring things out yourself. What makes indie sci-fi games work is they're not trying to compete with billion-dollar budgets. They focus on unique ideas and tight execution instead of photorealistic graphics and celebrity voice actors. Saros looks atmospheric in that actually alien way. Not just Earth, but with purple trees, lazy design. The developers clearly care about their vision more than shareholders and quarterly earnings. But indie also means risk. Small teams can have technical issues, bugs that don't get fixed quickly, or ideas that sound better than they play. April 30th is soon enough that we should see real gameplay footage, not just cinematic trailers. If Saros delivers on its promise of genuine exploration and discovery, it's worth way more than another copy-paste open-world game. Support developers who take creative risks. That's how we get innovation instead of Assassin's Creed 47. Capcom's milking Resident Evil harder than a dairy farm, but here's the frustrating part. They're actually good at it. Requiem drops February 27th, and we barely know anything about it except Capcom registered the trademark, and insiders are whispering. If this follows the Resident Evil 2 and 4 remake formula, tight survival horror, limited resources, actual tension, we're golden. But if Capcom's getting lazy and just reskinning assets to cash in on the name, we've got problems. What made the recent RE games work was respecting the source material while modernizing controls and graphics. Tank controls are gone, but the horror and atmosphere stayed. You still feel vulnerable, ammo still matters, and zombies are genuinely threatening instead of target practice. Requiem needs to continue that trend. No bloated open-world nonsense, no forced co-op that ruins pacing, and absolutely no Battle Royale mode because some executive thinks it's still 2018. Just pure survival horror that makes you afraid to open doors. Resident Evil's scary again. The question is whether they'll stick to what works or experiment with terrible ideas. February will answer that question. Until then, cautious optimism. Insomniac making a Wolverine game should be perfect. They nailed Spider-Man twice, so taking on Logan seems obvious. Fall 2026 gives them development time, which is crucial because Wolverine needs to feel brutal in ways Spider-Man couldn't be. We're talking claws through enemies, regeneration that actually matters in gameplay, berserker rage that's more than a button prompt. The challenge is making Wolverine feel powerful without making him boring. He can't die easily, he heals constantly, so how do you create tension? Insomniac needs smart design here. Maybe overwhelming numbers of enemies, maybe specific threats that counter healing, maybe consequences beyond just health bars. What worries me? Sony pushing them to sanitize the violence. Wolverine isn't family-friendly. He's a weapon who struggles with his nature. Toning that down to hit a certain rating ruins the character. And please, no copy-paste of Spider-Man's structure. Logan doesn't swing through cities doing side quests for random citizens. He's not a friendly neighborhood anything. Insomniac has the talent, but do they have creative freedom to make Wolverine properly violent and dark? Or will Disney and Sony water it down into generic action? The Guardians game proved you could do Marvel right without compromising. Wolverine deserves that same respect. Fall 2026 better deliver the Logan we actually want. November 19th, 2026. Rockstar's finally releasing GTA 6 after making more money from GTA 5 Online than some countries' GDP. Here's what everyone's thinking but not saying. This exciting. The leaked footage showed impressive stuff. Better animations, more interactive systems, actual consequences for actions. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. GTA Online consumed Rockstar's soul. They stopped making single-player DLC because shark cards printed money. Why innovate when people throw cash at digital cars? Money machine that occasionally makes art. Will GTA 6 be worth playing? Absolutely. Will it respect your time and wallet? Probably not. Buy it for the campaign. Half these games will get delayed. That's just reality. Publishers lie, development takes longer than planned, and 2026 inches often means 2027 if we're lucky. But here's the thing. Even if only half this list actually delivers, 2026 could be special. We've got creative indies taking risks, established studios trying to prove they still have it, and yeah, some corporate cash grabs will probably regret buying. My advice? Don't pre-order anything. Wait for actual reviews from real people, not paid influencers. Support the developers taking creative risks. Ignore the ones trying to sell you half a game for full price. And if a game has a season pass announced before launch, run. Which of these are you actually excited for? Let me know in the comments. And be honest, not just the safe picks everyone's hyping. If you found a game here you'd never heard of, that's exactly why I made this video. Hit subscribe if you want more real talk about gaming without the corporate nonsense. Now get out there and actually play something, instead of just watching videos about games. I'll see you in the next one.